Welcome everyone, Questin here on Serious Gaming, bringing you a quick look at Guild Wars 2 from my own personal perspective. Quick history: I've been a massive World of Warcraft fan in Vanilla World WoW and the Burning Crusade WoW, but I am very disappointed of the direction they have taken the Warcraft series in general since World of Warcraft, Wrath of the Lich King. They've just essentially pissed on their setting, their story, and the gameplay, the excellent gameplay of World of Warcraft. That is how I personally feel. I am pretty sure that there will be some fanboys that Blizzard still has that will be very angry at what I'm saying, but this is what I feel personally. And here's the thing: I did raid pretty extensively in the Burning Crusade. I killed everything before it was nerfed to hell and back, so I know what the hell I'm talking about with regards to gameplay. I'm not the best player, but I do have a good knowledge of raiding in general in World of Warcraft. But yeah, that's my personal view on WoW. The reason I'm bringing World of Warcraft up is because, from my perspective, despite the problems it currently has, there has been no MMORPG that has been able to match it, at least from my personal view, that matched that entertainment that World of Warcraft provided. I don't want a World of Warcraft clone, I just want an MMORPG that offers the same amount of entertainment, fun, and all of that WoW did. And I found it with Guild Wars 2. The game is very fun. When I first started playing World of Warcraft, for instance, my first reaction was like, this is amazing. I just fell in love with it. And I had a similar experience when I started playing Guild Wars, so I created my character, didn't really think much about the customization options because I had seen similar stuff before. But then I started playing, and the combat is just amazing. It's very entertaining, it's very fun, and the questing system in itself is very fun as well. You have events, dynamic events, like the one I'm fighting right here, which is essentially a group boss battle that's pretty damn powerful. And then you have certain areas with an NPC that will ask you to, well, not ask you, once you enter the area, you will get a message here telling you, okay, there's an NPC in the area who will give you a reward in coin and sell you some items if you help him with these objectives. And you can choose which ones you want to do. Like, you can, for instance, kill enemies in the area that the NPC wants killed. You can recover certain items. It does vary from area to area. Generally, the only thing you'll find in common in all areas is that there will be some killing, one way or another. Obviously, the enemies vary, and the rewards vary from NPC to NPC. And that's actually very interesting. But what I like about the gameplay is the combat itself. Like, it's very fast-paced, it's very action. It's a very action game where your reflexes do matter quite a bit. They do matter in WoW as well, but in WoW you don't have a dodge roll ability, for instance. Nor do you have, like, for instance, if I hit with my swords in thin air, I don't do damage to a foe. Whereas in WoW you can't actually hit things in thin air. You have to be close to a target to actually be able to to hit something with your weapons. And that's a very nice system, and I think the balance, well, Guild Wars, the developers of Guild Wars in general, based on what I know from people who have played the original Guild Wars, have generally been able to do a good balance for their games, or at least they did with Guild Wars 1. So yeah. Another thing I really like is the way your abilities work. Yes, you do have a limited number of abilities, but they do vary depending on the weapons you use. So for instance, here I have two weapon sets. You can have two weapon sets that you can switch on the push of a button. By the way, I'm dying here. And depending on the weapon you're using, like here I have a rifle, I have a certain number of abilities specific to it. The rifle is a very powerful single target ranged weapon. You also can use a longbow as a warrior. You can use most weapons except staffs, I think, as a warrior. I haven't played any of the other classes, so I can't really tell you for a fact. But I think that's the case, really. You're getting my ass kicked. Okay. Sorry, just focus on surviving here. But yeah, you do get different abilities, and different weapons work, well, differently, obviously. For instance, I think the mace is probably the best main hand weapon if you're going to be a tank as a warrior, because it does offer you the ability to block. You've also got shields. You can use, like, you have two-handed weapons. You have the mace and the greatsword, then you have the axe, the sword, and the mace, one-handed weapons. And if you equip a weapon in your main hand, for instance, you gain 3 abilities. Then you'll gain more abilities from your offhand weapon. You gain 3 from your main hand weapon and 2 from your offhand. So you have different combinations, and these do work. They do work quite well. Why am I switching when I should stay at range? They do work pretty well. I never felt that I was pretty OP, regardless of the combination I use. I do have my favorite. I think the mace as an offhand works pretty well because you have tremor ability, which interrupts foes in their attacks. In general, not this big boss here that probably should be taken down with a group instead of just alone, but hey, why not? I'm hardcore, I'll take this guy alone. It's not all that difficult, you just kite him is pretty slow, and I'm using the rifle abilities to slow him down. Aimed shot. And it is working. Okay, besides weapon skills, you also have various skills here. Various utility skills. You have 1 healing skill slot, then you have 3 utility skills, and then you have an elite skill, which I haven't unlocked yet. I'll get into those in just a bit once I kill this thing. Just keep kiting. Here I really feel that it's my skill, my ability to kite, that's determining whether or not I'm still alive here. Not some stats or a level or anything like that, no. No, it's just pure kiting skill. Every class has a heal. I'm using a healing signet, which gives me HP regeneration, passive HP regeneration. I do recommend this if you're going to play the warrior. I think it's probably the best healing signet to use while leveling. You do have other healing abilities. You do have 4 healing abilities to choose from, but I think this is the absolute best if you're going to when you're going to level up. Just because of the passive HP regeneration, I can activate it to heal myself for instant HP, but I lose the passive regeneration for a few seconds while the ability recharges. Okay, come on, bastard. I have volley ability, and I have adrenaline ability, but the kill shot, yes, it is the kill shot. The kill shot requires you to stand still for a few seconds, and with this bastard, I'm not doing that. That's why you probably have the aim shot, to be able to stop for a second and actually use the kill shot. And you do have an auto attack, which you can disable and enable for one ability of your preference. Choose whichever it suits you. Whichever suits you, that is. Out of the utility skills that I have Signet, which reduces incoming damage as a passive ability, and gives me stability if I have activated, which ignores control effects like knockdown, fear, and float, sync, and all of that stuff. So yeah, it is useful. Then I have Prayer to Lisa, which gives me a random buff and a random debuff on an enemy. This is actually pretty helpful, and I think it's gonna be very interesting to see how this works in PvP, because it is unpredictable. You don't know what you're gonna get, nor does your opponent know what he's gonna be hit with. So it is a very unpredictable element, and I think it's gonna be very useful for the warrior in PvP. Personal opinion. Then I have For Great Justice, which increases my damage essentially. And there we go. Some pretty... yeah, a harpoon gun, a chest which you can unlock with... which you can only unlock with a certain key, which you have to buy for gems, or you get in the story. You get in the story a number of them. One thing I like here with the inventory, you can deposit collectibles, like ore, for instance, wood. There is wood cutting in this game, stuff like that, into a special tab in the bank, and there's no limit to this, so you don't have to fill your bank with ores or wood or anything like that. Another interesting thing is the way the gathering professions work. There are none. You just buy axes or picks or other items to be able to mine ore, cut down trees, or harvest plants. That's essentially what you do. Okay, now that I'm done with this guy, let me just retreat to a safe spot. Like, there's a lot of dynamic events, and there are some bugs. Like, this one here is bugged. And there's one skill point challenge here that is also bugged, and it's actually preventing me from gaining full completion in this area, which would give me a chest filled with items. So I do recommend you go for full completion in the areas you're questing, because you will gain some very good stuff. Okay, let me just go over the weapon skills, then I'll tell you what slot skills are. Slot skill points are essentially, they're just points with which you buy slot skills, you know, utility skills and such, and elite skills. So we have the main hand, the sword, and it has 3 abilities in the main hand and 2 in the offhand. It does rely a bit on, actually quite a lot, on bleeding. Like, you can do a lot of bleeding with this, with swords in your main hand and your offhand. You can do a lot of bleeding with just sword in the main hand, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. Then you have the 2-handed hammer. Pretty damn powerful. It is slow. Keep that in mind. It does a lot of damage. It does have a weakness effect on Fierce Blow, Hammer Shock, which is a crippling effect. You also have one, the Hamstring, with the sword in the main hand. A knockback ability, and a Backbreaker, which is another knockdown. The longbow is a powerful AoE ranged weapon. Like, its adrenaline skill is an area of effect dot that you put on the ground, and people who walk through that area take damage. You also have Fan of Fire, where you fire 3 arrows in a cone. Then Arching Arrow, which is another, well, a blast on the ground that does damage to areas that are caught in it. Smoldering Arrow, which makes the next attack to miss. Pin Down attack, which immobilizes target, and Dual Shot, which is your default attack. When you first equip a weapon, you will only start with the default attack, like the very first attack on this list. Then you'll have to unlock these by killing foes. Killing them, not just hitting them with your weapon. Then there's the axe in main hand and offhand, the great sword, the mace, and which by the way I consider best for tanking in the main hand. Why? Because it does have the counter blow, block the next attack and counter with an attack, and you also have the shield which has block attacks for 3 seconds. So I think it's a good combination to go with the mace in the main hand and a shield in the offhand if you're going to be tanking. I like the mace in the offhand because it does have tremor, which knocks down enemies, and crushing blow, which gives enemies vulnerability, 11%. The rifle is a very powerful single target weapon. The war horn is used to give yourself and your allies buffs, as well as giving the enemy debuffs. And this is what I'm talking about. I haven't unlocked all the abilities for the spear because I haven't used it. I used it to kill, I don't know, 2-3 foes, then I replaced it with the harpoon gun. Just a ranged weapon. There is underwater combat in this game. Like if I go to my inventory screen, I have this like underwater combat, and I can also add another underwater weapon. When you go underwater, you just automatically switch to your swimming combat gear or combat swimming gear, whatever. There's a helm, which is the breather essentially, to explain why you can stay underwater for an indefinite amount of time without dying, you know. And there is your weapon. That's essentially your gear for underwater combat. But that is something you have to take into consideration. There's also repair. I'm deliberately not repairing my gear, but you just need to go to these guys and they'll repair it for money. Okay, let me just go over the skills. Now you have traits, which, first off, traits work like talent trees, if you want to use the World of Warcraft example. You invest in them, you get 70 trait points, and to get to the end of each tree you need to spend 30 points. So what I think will happen is that people will spend fully in 2 trees and then 10 points in 1/3 tree. Or they might spend, I don't know, let's say 20 in one tree and 20 in another. That could work as well, like gaining these middle abilities here. That could work. At least that's how I see it. I'm leveling up. I'm trying to make my character a tank and a damage dealer at the same time. There are various stats. There's power, which increases damage. There's condition duration, like bleeding effects, how long they last, that kind of stuff. For instance, there's precision, critical strike chance, I think. Let me just go over my stats. Like, okay, precision, yeah, critical hit chance increases that, and condition damage, how much your effects, like bleeding, how much damage these effects do. Increases healing, the amount you heal, and toughness, which is your armor. In defense, tactics, vitality, that's HP, boon duration, how long such buffs actually last. There's a percentage, and there's like, okay, there's percentage to condition duration here, and there is power as well, so taking that into consideration. I'm not sure if, say for instance, I spent 30 points in tactics, I gain 300 vitality. At the highest level, I wonder how much that's actually worth. Like right now, how much vitality do I have? Like at this level, at level 30, with the crap gear that I have 200 vitality. So it probably is not worthless, but I don't see tanks really going for that. And you might ask why. Well, because the bonuses themselves, like, you have these smaller abilities and these bigger ones where you can choose what to get. And I don't think the ones in tactics for warriors at least are really worth it if you're going to play a tank. But obviously it's called tactics, it's not called defense. So there's that. You have a great deal of options, and I'm not gonna go through every single fucking one of them. Here I choose to go for Berserker's Power, so that when I have more adrenaline levels, the more adrenaline levels I have, the more damage I do. And with 3 full bars here, I do 12% more damage, and that's actually very helpful, especially when using a rifle. But yeah, going into slot skills. Now you'll gain 1 slot skill per level from level 2 actually. And you will spend these on gaining all these abilities. I don't think they're all useful, but I think that you're going to be able to get all of them. Still, pick wisely because you do have limited skills, slot skills at the beginning. You can gain more slot skills by completing certain challenges in the game. Like if I go to Vigil's Keep, just to show you guys what the challenge might be about. I won't actually fight the thing because it's bugged, but generally it's just going to an area. For instance, in some cases it's going to the end of a cave which is filled with monsters and finding this item that you then use, or this place of power which you then commune with, and then you get the skill point. Or it involves fighting some foes that challenge you. It is a lot easier to die in this game from falling than it is in World of Warcraft, by the way. I learned that the hard way. Yeah. But yeah, if I go here, and by the way, this does buff your allies. If I go here, you'll see that a challenge has been activated. Now, once a player activates a challenge, nearby players can come in and help them, and they'll also get the skill point. I don't think you can. Actually, I'm pretty sure you can't get more skill points. If, for instance, say, okay, you defeated a challenge once, and then another player comes in there and starts it, and then you can get like 2 skill points. No, I don't think that works like that. I'm pretty sure you're limited to 1 skill point per this type of challenge. Now, not all of them are like this, but generally I've seen that they're either a fight or reaching a deeper area of a cave, for instance, or a very dangerous area filled with enemies. And you use these skill points to get slot skills. You have 1 healing skill, like with a warrior you have healing surge, which heals you more depending on your adrenaline level and also gives you a certain amount of adrenaline. You have a heal that I haven't gotten that heals yourself and cures 2 conditions, debuffs. One that I'm using, Healing Signet, which grants me regeneration, and if I activate it, it does grant me heal, and then Prayer to a Goddess, which gives me a direct healing for quite a bit. It's not as good as Healing Surge Stage 3, but it's definitely better, and it's a bit weaker than Stage 2, but it's better than everything else. In terms of utility skills, you have many options. You have various banners, for instance, or abilities to break stuns, an ability to gain a great deal of adrenaline in a short time, a throw ability, a lot of abilities, Bolt's Charge, Endure Pain ability, take no damage from attacks for 5 seconds. Does have a 90-second cooldown, so keep that in mind. Prayer to Lisa. I'm using this mostly for soloing, because the boon does help me quite a bit. And then various other abilities. And then there's the elite skills, like a battle standard, which revives fallen allies, grants fury might, alright, grants adrenaline, passive. become the Reaper of Granth. Yeah. And it transforms into an avatar and all of that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. A quick glance at Guild Wars 2. There's a lot more to say. I can safely say it. There's a personal story. By the way, I want to talk about this. There's a personal story in the game, and it's not bad. In fact, it's actually pretty solid. It's not a complex story, but even as a simplistic one, it does carry a certain amount of quality to it. So yeah, another game which provides better story than Dragon Age 2. Though that's not saying much, by the way. I think that there are a great deal of games that have a much better story than Dragon Age 2. And this game also has much better gameplay, obviously. What's surprising about this game is that it's actually challenging. Like, MMOs, with regards to leveling at least, have never been all that challenging. Here, you will die pretty easily, actually. You don't go charging into a group of like 2-3 mobs that are all like 4 levels higher than you and expect to survive. You will get slaughtered. And even single targets can kill you if you're not careful. Like, yes, I was able to take down that big guy, that big champion, that group boss, but I was able to do so because he was slow as fuck and I had an ability to slow him even further, but I did almost die. If you die in this game, by the way, it does not work as say it would in WoW. If you die, you fall to the ground and people can revive you, or you can revive yourself if you're not getting hit by enemies. You do have a heal ability, and once you're healed full, you get back up and you are at half HP. Yeah. Or you can kill the enemy that killed you, or any enemy nearby, and actually I think it's the enemy that killed you, and then you will revive at half HP. So yeah, that's it. Costin here, signing out.